Welcome to the Wedding in the Waters tour. We're almost at the conclusion of the Erie Canal here. It's been a wonderful trip. We've been traveling from Tonawanda to Waterford, and then we're going down to New York City. We're going to be boarding the Urchin tomorrow in a ceremony at 2 p.m. It's been a great trip. We've enjoyed the support along the way. It has really helped, both used as an educational tool and for purpose of promoting Proposition 3. It's just been wonderful. We've had school kids come out and they brought us artwork and essays, and it's been very moving. And we've got flags from various cities all over the different counties and towns, and keys from different cities, and produce from western New York, salt potatoes from Syracuse, and we got a nutcracker from Herkimer. So we've got a great selection of produce and representation of industries. The focus of the Wedding in the Waters, of course, is to bring a barrel of water from the western terminus of Tonawanda down to New York City. That barrel is over to your right, or to your left. The green barrel. It weighs over 130 pounds. It is carrying water from Tonawanda. It's going down to New York City, just as they did in 1825. In 1825, they had water from various rivers around the world. And along our way, we have collected water. We have some water from Lockport, and we also have some water from Canada, Quebec. We also have water from Poland. So we have a few other selections of water which will make the trip even more meaningful. At this time, I'd like to bring up honored guest John Van Slyke to say a few things about the local community here in Scotia. To do some formal introductions. Right up here at the mic. Welcome, John.
Welcome on board.
The canal project that's going on in Schenectady, as you well know, is the Bateau project. It's an important celebration of the forerunner of the canal. The forerunner began about 1792, and now in 1992 we're planning to celebrate that start of a far more important thing that took place in the 1820s, when the canal was finally opened along its full length for commerce. The canal in the years since, of course, has been diverted to the Mohawk River in this area, and no longer serves as the kind of commercial artery that it used to serve as, but is now a major recreational facility for the region. And as a recreational facility, it perhaps is time for the voters of the state of New York to consider how that facility shall be supported, whether the users should be charged for using the locks and maintaining the canal. So that's the Proposition 3 that you're going to be asked to vote on in the fall. We've got some honored guests here. Bill Seiss, the mayor of Scotia, is here, and I don't know whether he has anything to add to what I've got to say. Have you got anything to say, Bill? Come on up.
I would be brief this morning. It's much easier to stand in the sunshine than to stand here in the shade. On behalf of the Village of Scotia, I do want to welcome the barge and those of you traveling with it. I recognize the historic importance. The foresight that DeWitt Clinton had so many years ago is reflected in the foresight this year, this effort to revitalize the canal for new purposes in the future, and to draw attention to the constitutional amendment question on this year's ballot. On behalf of Scotia Village Board, I would like to see your exhibit here. Welcome to Scotia.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
John?
We also have a representative of the county legislature. Gus Comanzo, would you like to come up here and add your words of wisdom to the words from the city of Scotia?
Thank you, John. It is a great honor and pleasure to be here. We know how important Schenectady was in the canal system, and we are pleased to be here. I'm also pleased to note that Schenectady County is represented also here today by some of the Schenectady Community College people, students and professor, and we are so happy to see them here and get involved in this project. Schenectady County, of course, represents the community college, and we're very pleased to see them here. Thank you for coming. I have with me a flag that would be, we hope that you will be able to fly. It is the Schenectady County flag, and it is our honor and pleasure to have you accept this on behalf of Schenectady County and all its residents. Here we go.
There we go. That's fine.
We also have out there Denise Cashmere, who is with the planning board of the county, and she's been so instrumental in all the activities here. We would thank you for coming, and that's going to be a nice addition to this barge. Thank you very much.
Isn't it pretty?
We'd be remiss if we did not mention Mary Van der Bogart of Orr, who has put together many of the arrangements for the meeting today, and Karen Engelke of the Schenectady Urban Cultural Park. Is there anybody else I haven't mentioned? I should mention.
George Ward.
Ah, George Ward, yes, the concertina man. He's coming down to give us a little celebration music. I thank you.
Thank you. He's great.
Before I introduce the governor, I'd like to say a few things about the project. This is brought about all by private funds, administrated through the group Erie. Our group is called Erie's Restoration Interest Everyone. We're based in Lyons, New York, and we've been together for 3 years now, working on revitalization and restoration of the Erie Canal. It's been a wonderful 3 years, and this is the highlight of our time aboard. It's just been a wonderful trip. This wouldn't have been possible without those private donations, of which are listed on the board over there. And also we had a donation for this wood. We built this in 3 days with the help of volunteers. And as we move along, we've been gathering, like I was talking about, the artwork. So it's been a lot of hard work to have this come about, but it's been well worth it. We're dedicated to the establishment of greenways along the canal, so you can hike and bike. Just like I saw up here in Schenectady and Scotia, there's a wonderful greenway trail. It goes over an old aqueduct. That's the kind of things we like to see for the future and all along the canal. There's many areas where there's abandonment of both aqueducts and the old locks. We like to see a few locks restored for the future. And also the development and the revitalization of marinas and terminals for docking boats and restaurants, bed and breakfasts. This is all going to happen with the passage of Proposition 3. At this time, I'd like to bring up the Honorable DeWitt Clinton. Welcome, Governor.
Pleasure being here in Scotia this afternoon, or this morning. I realize it's a little cold out, but I'd like to give you a brief overview of the early history of the Erie Canal and why we're celebrating the Wedding of the Waters in 1991. Back in 1809, there was some question as to whether the state of New York could afford to build the Erie Canal. So Governor Clinton sent a delegation to Washington, D.C. to talk to the President of the United States, who at that time was Thomas Jefferson. The committee that went down there was headed by Judge Joshua Foreman. When he got to Washington, D.C., they talked about internal improvements, which was a fairly large issue before the federal government, because they realized that travel from the East Coast into the interior of the country was virtually impossible because the roads were bad and the waterways were not improved, and it just simply was risky because they felt the interior was going to be eventually occupied by foreign powers. So there was a tremendous amount of interest in the internal improvements, as they called them. So Judge Joshua Foreman finally broached the question to Thomas Jefferson and said, well, New York State has done a survey and we can build a canal from Albany to Lake Erie for about $6 million. This must have taken Jefferson by surprise, because he said to Judge Joshua Foreman, well, I've been trying to get a canal built near Washington, D.C. for $200,000, and the federal government simply cannot afford it. And you're coming here and asking me for $6 million. That's impossible. And he further said that such a project was a little short of madness and couldn't be done for another 100 years. With this good news, Joshua Foreman returned to Albany and told this to DeWitt Clinton, and DeWitt Clinton felt that New Yorkers are made of much sterner stuff and that we are going to finance this canal and dig this canal ourselves. In 1817, the canal was started on July 4th. When the canal was completed, it was 362 miles long. It went through swamps, virgin forest. It was built of 18 stone aqueducts, 83 stone locks. The project itself, when complete, was considered the 8th wonder of the world. The profession of civil engineering was actually started as a result of the Erie Canal, because when they started the Erie Canal, there were no engineers or men who had any particular knowledge about how to build a lock or how to dig the canal. But nevertheless, in 8 short years, the canal was completed by New Yorkers in New York State. When it was opened in 1825, the celebration started in Buffalo, New York, and the way it started was it started at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning on the 26th of October. And DeWitt Clinton and his party, when they boarded the Seneca Chief, and the Seneca Chief pulled away from the dock and started heading east, a cannon was fired. And from every 5 to 8 miles along the canal, a cannon was fired like a telegraph or a relay, and this went all the way to Albany. And then eventually, from Albany, it went down into New York Harbor. After about 20 minutes of wild celebration, because they knew that the canal was officially open, they returned that signal in another hour and 20 minutes. And the celebration continued on for about 2 weeks until they reached New York Harbor. They took a barrel of Erie water, which they had filled up there, and poured it into New York Harbor as a symbolic wedding of the waters, a symbolic wedding of the interior Great Lakes with all the oceans, seas, and rivers of the world. When the canal opened, it was able to bring commerce and people in and out of New York State, east and west. It was the greatest artery of both transportation in terms of immigration. In the first year alone, over 18,000 people were able to migrate into the Midwest, into the western parts of our country. The Erie Canal built New York State. It built all the communities along the canal, especially west of Utica, because at that time they were very small and struggling because they just simply couldn't move anything around. It also built the nation because at that time, as I said before, it was very difficult to travel from the East Coast into the interior. So the greatest single thing that ever happened in this country as far as development was the Erie Canal. And it was built by New Yorkers, because New Yorkers are the kind of people that can do that kind of a project. We're extremely happy to be here today, and as we continue down through New York, we'll be taking your flag to South Harbor, South Street Seaport, and on this celebration we're having on the 26th of October 1991, we're going to re-wed the waters of Lake Erie with the waters of the oceans and rivers of the world, because there's a new age here in New York State, and there's a new canal, and it's going to be for the New Yorkers to enjoy as a recreation way, boating, picnicking, and bicycling, hiking, and all these good things that New Yorkers need and deserve. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Governor. At this time, we are also honored in our presence to have Alexander Glenn. Is he out there? And Philip Schuyler. These great men are going to come down here and say a few words for everybody, too. We're going back another century now. Also, at this time, I'd like to point out that this is all privately funded, but we still need money to help the project go through, and we are selling wonderful sweatshirts, the Wedding in the Water sweatshirts for $18 over there. We also have a donation barrel over here. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's 1791, and next year, 1792, we're going to do something about the problems of navigation. As you saw when this vessel came up, it ran aground. We've got that problem all up and down the Mohawk. If we're going to improve navigation, we're going to have to do a survey, find out just where the shoals are and the rapids and the rocks and things which need improving. That's what we're going to do next summer. Now, I'm ordering up this winter a bateau from Nicholas Veeder over in Schenectady. And that bateau will be ready in August. And with my compatriot, here, Goldsboro Banyard. We're going to get in that bateau and we're going to go all the way up to Fort Stanwix at Rome, and we're going to survey the conditions on the river. So if you're here in August on this riverbank, you'll see one brand new three-handed bateau launched out of Schenectady Harbor, and we'll be surveying up the Mohawk looking for places to improve. So I ask you to step up and look at our table up there, look at the information we have on the project, and also stop back here in August and see that event for yourself. The Survey of the Mohawk by Philip Schuyler and the Western Inland Lock Navigation Company, August of 1792. Now, would you like to say a few words? He always likes to say a few words, so I'll step out of the way now. Thank you.
Well, as the treasurer of the Western Inland Navigation Company, I would just like to say that we intend to float an issue of stock, and those people who are in the know will be sure to buy some the first day of issue. So I look forward to seeing you people on that day.
Always thinking about money. Come on up.
Thank you.
At this time, before George Ward gets all set up, we'd like to invite everybody aboard to take a look at our displays here. Take time to read them up. Grab an apple or a pear. They're from Western New York. The salt potatoes aren't cooked. If you want to take a few, you can.
Oh, fare you well to wide Lake Erie and the green Niagara River. Roll ye grey swells of Ontario, St. Lawrence to the sea. I am bound a gentler passage east, away through Tonawanda. Stern waters of the peaceful border roll. Roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land, where the Erie hugged the palisades and crossed the rippling water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. Gone to ashes, gone to glory, all the engineers and diggers, all the hoggies and their skippers, where their teams have gone before. I have touched them where their tow lines grooved the iron rails at Lockport, bid them peace and headed eastward, coming home. Roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land, where the Erie hugged the palisades and crossed the rippling waters, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. Still they whisper to me easy, rolling east along the levels, Brockport, Fairport, Adams Basin, Montezuma, and the rest, where politicos and visionaries, hungry men with shovels, turn the wilderness to coastline, bending west. For I'm a boatman making passage on the dreams of folk forgotten, by the sweat of men uprooted, bringing promise from the land, over bones of ancient ways cut down and buried in the towpath, east to memory, east to morning, coming home. Roll me down, good river, rolling down the shining valley, where the hearth fires of the longhouse flickered easy on the land, where the Erie hugged the palisades and crossed the rippling water, rolling down to Rexford, coming home. For I'm bound a gentler passage east, away through Tonawanda.